Welcome everyone to the Island Life podcast, where we journey onto the island of discovery to relive some of the best and worst moments of Survivor. My name is Will, an experienced Survivor fan, 48 seasons deep, and I will be your guide. And joining us on this special two-person adventure is our Survivor newbie, the brand new Survivor fan who just finished his 5th season of the show. I give you Survivor F.
Hello, Survivor F here. How's it going?
Oh, it's going well. How's your evening going, good sir?
It's okay. Now it's about to get a little bit spicier with the talk of Survivor, especially as we wrap up this season.
Oh, really? See, you would have thought that already happened last time because one of those episodes was literally titled Spicy Jeff. But we're getting more spicy, you say. Oh boy.
Absolutely. If you recall, this has not been one of the better seasons. In fact, it's actually been one of the seasons I have not liked so far. So up until now, it's been at the bottom of the list, and I've just been trying to give it more and more opportunities to see, okay, like, is it gonna work its way from the bottom, not be the worst of the Survivor seasons I've seen so far? And I know other people probably have mixed opinions about it, but yeah, it's just as we're concluding the season and we see a lot of the chaos unfold, I've just been looking for any sense of stability, clarity, smart strategic planning to kind of push us through the finish line. And we do see a glimpse of it in both episode 11 and episode 12. But before we get into it, just a quick summary on my part. I'm not too fond of how, like, we have a lot of people who have had opportunities to leverage their advantages and make use of them only to not end up using it. And, it's funny I mentioned that because it's something we start to see again in episode 11 and episode 12.
You have to admit though. Well, I guess you don't have to, but 4 consecutive people going home with idols in their pocket. That's Survivor history, by the way. That at this point that had not happened
Yeah.
before. So is there any part of you that's like, wow, like I'm seeing like something legitimately crazy after 46 seasons that this even now is crazy?
It was meant to be broken at some point, right? I think it would be even crazier if if it was revealed to everyone else that, yeah, this person actually had an idol. Because I think if that happened, then there's no way we would get to this point. People would be a little bit more careful about, like, oh, that person had an idol, didn't have an opportunity to use it, and got sent packing home. And then, okay, it happened to this other person too, then this other person, then this. Like, you'll start to recognize a pattern, and people who then get these advantages would be more likely to actually use those advantages. But it's not a good record to have, but it's entertaining in a sense, I would say. Like, it leaves you at the edge of your seat. I will give it that, in the sense that, when the vote comes up and you're positive that this person is on the chopping block, you're stuck wondering if, whenever Jeff gives them an opportunity to use their idol or not. I've been wrong about this a lot of times this season, where I'm like thinking, okay, yeah, that person will use their idol. Like, that's been one thing that I have not been right about at all. I might have been right maybe the first time it happened, but like every other time I've been like, oh yeah, no, this person's using their idol, and it just has not happened. So it's, in that sense, it's kind of entertaining. It leaves you guessing.
Yeah, I guess the one thing you can't accuse this season of being is predictable. Uh, maybe it's gone too far, but uh, yeah, I'm curious what your thoughts are going to be on the finale once we get to that point, because
Sure.
maybe after all of the chaos, perhaps a storyline has finally emerged. But But all right, let's talk about our latest descent into chaos, which history-making couple of episodes here. Now, last time we saw our heroes, they were blindsiding Tiff, most of them. And actually, to your point, this was a case where they did know she had an idol. So they all know at this point somebody went home with an idol in their pocket. But before the morning, we see Kenzie is um, rather upset, multiple emotions. Like her actual number one is gone via blindside. She too was blindsided by this. And the previous episode, it was her, Kenzie, that wanted to do this type of plan. But it didn't happen that episode, and then in this episode, she got cold feet or just changed her mind or anything, and as a result, she wasn't included. So she's kind of upset. And on the bright side, like it doesn't look like she's gonna go off in like a blind rage and just like be angry at everybody. I think she recovers pretty quickly. Like
Yeah.
this is a while ago, but think about Pearl Islands. Like there comes a point when I don't know if it was Rupert or someone else goes home, but Sandra just goes off and she's screaming. She's like, "I told you that Johnny Fairplay was a snake and everything." And Sandra was completely right about that, but she is burning bridges. Kenzie doesn't burn bridges here.
Yeah, Kenzie, I will give her. She's been one of the survivors this season that actually has been growing on me. I didn't have too much of a positive opinion, and that's largely because of the tribe rather than what she herself has been doing. It's just disappointment in terms of the Yanu tribe, and she's turned things around in the sense that she's a pretty likable person. I will say, she's been helping Ben, when she hasn't needed to. She could be more cutthroat if she actually wanted to be. So she's shown her human side. And yeah, this has got to be such a gut punch for her because it takes away something that she herself wanted to do, something that she could add to her survivor resume, assuming she makes it to the final vote, goes up against the judges. That would have been a talking point for her that, yeah, I drove the vote, got rid of my number one just to be able to cut some of the fat there and separate myself and essentially establish myself as a better player in the game. It took that away from her. So in a sense, yes, that for her, like, whatever frustrations she has, very valid. But as you said, it's not something that she lingered too much on and got her head back in the game. So Kenzie's one of the contestants that has been growing on me.
Would you say like because at some point, you know what? Let's take a break from the episode real quick. This just occurred to me.
Yeah.
Although you've told me that you've been disappointing in the lack of cohesive strategy, aka like all this chaos, what about just like our cast, like our characters? Like has the show compelled you to care about at least a few of the people from like the merge on, let's say?
It has. I think part of my disappointment has to do with the fact that some of the more likable people that I enjoyed watching did get eliminated relatively early on, compared to other seasons where you had like a number of people you might have liked watching, and you got to see their strategies grow over time. This season, it feels like the people that at least initially I didn't think too highly of are the people essentially who are staying. Now, like that's not all of them. Like there's still some good contestants in my opinion. I think Charlie plays a smart game. Always liked Ben. Uh, Honestly, the entire Green Tribe, like it, I liked most of them. Even Maria. Maria, for the most part, has been a good player. So I think part of the disappointment and it's amplified because of now I've watched other seasons, but most of the disappointment has to do with exactly that more of the other people that I would have enjoyed seeing in this segment of the game, like Tevin, like Hunter, they've been eliminated. So you don't really get to see what they're doing or what they're about. And it's just, as I mentioned to you as we were watching the episodes, I think this is one of those seasons where like I would have just had a what if. I would have had these what if questions all throughout, especially since like some of these people have had opportunities to prevent their own demise. Even like without having to change the votes, like they just have immunity idols. They have built in protection that they just did not use. So I think you put that all together, and that essentially explains the why I'm especially disappointed with how this season has come out.
Gotcha, gotcha. So you did mention Maria. Um, she is the opposite of Kenzie right now. She
Yes.
has gotten all the credit for the Tiffany Blindside, and I mean, you're right. It's great. It's a great resume piece. It is getting her a lot of negative attention. This is one of the big differences between when we watch older seasons and newer seasons. The negative attention is not so often sour grapes. It's more like, "Ooh, that was a good move. If she gets to the end, she's a threat to win. Therefore, we need to target her." Like, that's the type of negative attention she's getting now. Back in the old days, it might have been like, "Oh, what a betrayal." Like, she's like people would use their emotions, I think, more. But either way, both in new era and old era, it's you got negative attention.
Yeah, just not where you want to be, especially in this stages of the game. Just as you feel like you're about to make it to the final vote, she herself recognizes that, right? That she's making moves. I recall in one of the episodes here, she herself points out that, like, if these people don't recognize that I'm a threat, then they might not be playing the game correctly. I'm just kind of paraphrasing some of
Mhm.
what she was saying, but that's something that she herself recognizes that, hey, I'm making moves. People are seeing me do things, get things done, employ strategy here, and maybe potentially work people to my advantage, try to, I wouldn't say deceive people, but like other people might recognize that I know how to talk things out and get my way done just from having a good social game. So absolutely, like, her assessment's correct. She very much is a threat. She is the threat right now. And that's something that, like, you get to see especially over the course of these next two episodes that we watch. That's something that
Yeah.
gets brought up by not only the people who work with her, but obviously, like, the people who haven't spent as much time with her, but just like off of first impressions and seeing her in challenges, seeing how she's able to maneuver around things, get the sense that, like, hey, she knows what she's doing. She could legitimately win this game if we kind of allow this to drag out.
What do you think about her alliances? So it began with just like Sega itself. Actually,
Right.
way back it was if you think of what like in the Banu saga, what was happening on Sega was like girls versus guys,
Girls versus
and sh
guys.
and she had to make a choice whether to like go with Charlie, Ben, and Tim, or persuade Charlie to go with her, Mariah, and uh, Jem. Uh, and in the end, she chooses Charlie and the guys. So there's that. Then she gets brought into the Six, like the greatest alliance of all time, by Tim.
Clearly.
So yeah, that's happening. Uh, then as the plus one alliance just falls apart, she continues this like core one-on-one alliance with Charlie, but also decides to give Q a chance, who's been abandoned by everybody else, and adds Q to her numbers, or at least in theoretical numbers. And so now she is a threat, a public threat, because she's gotten the credit, but she does have Charlie as an ally. She seemingly has Q as an ally, and we don't see it come up, but you would think Ben also, as part of Sega. So I mean, it's looking pretty good for Maria, at least at
Yeah,
this point.
absolutely. Yeah, and even early on, right? Like, we got to see like what essentially was the the most meaningful relationship for her, right? Like, she had the opportunity to test the waters, girls versus guys thing. I recall you saying, like, very early on, like, as we were watching, that like these girls versus guys things tend to happen like pretty much in every season. You weren't spoiling that, like, oh, okay, like, do they work or not? But like that just got me thinking that, like, okay, like, well, if it happens frequently enough, like, it might be one of those things that people who are like Survivor fans, super, like, they watch like every season, they might be counting on the fact that, like, oh, okay, is it very successful if I do a guys versus girls thing? And I think that's one of those things that might have been weighing on her mind if she's very familiar with Survivor at this point. For me, I got the sense pretty early on that, like, Charlie was her rock, right? And it was amplified in the sense that Tim did try to bring her into the Core Six Alliance, and it just did not work out. She just did not have that relationship with Tim, even though like she joined the guys' majority originally to be able to vote out one of the girls. It just seemed like from the very start, despite like the girls group being the very first one that was brought up, and even like I guess with her and Tim being like the two parents, it seemed like the most genuine relationship that she had and the most impactful in terms of making it to the end has always been Charlie.
But what about now that she has the Q X Factor as part of her various alliances?
Yeah, this is me just more not wanting to see Q in the game at this point, but like I could see I can see the logic behind it. Do I agree with it? No, just because I think there are some dangers that she's not understanding that come with associating yourself with someone who everyone else thinks is like toxic and has shown himself to be quite toxic. But where I see that, Maria sees opportunity, and for all I know, like her actions throughout the rest of the season could prove me wrong. So, I'm gonna hold my opinion on that fully, but I think, at least initial impression in terms of joining Q, it did not seem like the right move to me.
Yeah, over the history of the show, there's two sides of this that you'll never know which way it's gonna go, I guess, until you get through your season. But on one side, it's it is dangerous to keep someone around that like as an ally, because if everyone else hates them and you are lucky enough to get to the end, people may blame you for that person getting far, or at least further than them, and that could lose you jury votes. So that's always a consideration. On the other hand, if you bring someone like that with you to the end and they are indeed hated, well, then they're not going to get any votes. That makes it easier for me to get the votes.
Yeah.
So I think both of those are real factors. It's just that they go against each other. So it's tough to know which way it'll go if this is the
And
strategy
I'll
you're gonna
I'll throw
go.
something else into that mix too, right? Like this is where I could see some of the logic behind why Maria is trying to work with him. He essentially could end up acting as a shield for her, right? Where it's one of those things where if she recognizes that I'm a threat in the game, what is maybe if I'm seen as a threat, like what would be an alternative vote if I'm not being voted, right? It could be someone that like people just don't like. So like if there's an opportunity for people to vote me out and Q still on the table, that could be a thing where it could split the vote. And just because of how toxic Q's been, just because of how unlikable he's been for the past couple of episodes, it could essentially help push me to the finish line, right? So like she could consider that he's a shield. Now, to play devil's advocate to myself,
Yeah.
this is where I think that there's like some issues because like she's not recognizing that he could essentially be burning bridges for her without her realizing, right? Like whoever's willing to work with her, now that they see that she's working with Q, they'd be less likely to work with her. And that may propel her to be an even bigger threat, right? It all depends on like everyone's perception. So I think you assess the risk and reward towards working with everyone. And for her, before she even decided to work with Q, she had an opportunity to see what he was like, see how everyone else thought his gameplay was. She did this like before, like she joined him essentially after they had that chaotic tribal vote that he essentially created all this chaos behind. So at that point, she must have had a good enough read on him to be able to make her decision. And for her, ultimately, she decided that the risk did not the reward outweighed the risk here. So it was worth
Mhm.
taking a chance on.
Yeah, I think it'll be interesting. Like she could have tried the same thing, but with Liz, or maybe even with Venus. It would have been similar stories, I think.
Yeah.
Venus, though. Okay, so uh, after all the stuff we talked about, people, since Tiffany's idol was public, they deduce it is likely rehidden. That tends to be what happens if an idol is played or is eliminated from the game by not being played. And so everybody goes off to like search for this idol. Well, everybody except Liz, of course, who enjoys a nap while this is all happening. Um, Not the best look for Liz, but I guess you're conserving your energy, so that's like the only positive I can see from it.
Yeah.
And while everybody is searching, it is Venus who actually ends up finding the idol. And this, at this moment in the episode, it could be a game changer because Venus, although she's been very confident the entire time and has voted correctly some of the time, um, she has no allies. That's like a huge weakness.
Right.
So this idol could be a game changer for her.
Yeah, it's definitely something that like goes her way earlier in the season when she found out that Randon had a beware advantage, that he had the opportunity to get an idol on. That got halted because he got taken out of the game due to injury. So for her to essentially try to get something on her own, this is essentially just kind of the next step for her. I mean, obviously, like she could stand to benefit from just building relationships, which I think has been a massive black hole for her. Like, she's had ample opportunity to develop relationships. You're pretty far into the season at this point, and my concern with her has always been that like we're talking about Q being toxic. This is also another person who is toxic. No one trusts her, and I don't know if it's the body language. I don't know if it's the attitude. There's a lot of stuff we don't see on camera, but clearly she does things that get on people's nerves where they just do not want to work with her. And that is someone with that sort of impression. Like, I don't see how you would win the game. I don't see how you avoid a vote at some point, even if you're not some challenge beast. At some point, people are going to vote you out, right? The only reason you would even make it far is because people don't see you as a threat. And at that point, like, the people that you're going to get a vote against, like within the jury, they need to at least like you enough to be able to cast a vote for you. So this is, I'm not sure. Like, she's one of those players that I mentioned in an earlier episode that, like, I'm not sure what her end game is. Like, there's so many questions that you have with her in terms of like what's going on. She lacks a lot of self awareness in terms of like, okay, this person's the threat, this person's the biggest threat. And it's like, rather than properly understanding the threats that everyone else sees, she's like just pointing the names at people who are the most secure. And it's, she really needed something to get her going. So I don't know. Like, I was thinking, like, when we saw her at least get the advantage, like, okay, this is an opportunity for her to build strategy and see how maybe she can establish a relationship and at least do something to be able to get her through the hurdle at the end and make her a viable finalist at the end of the final episode.
Her problem is that she's not taken seriously right now for a number of reasons. Like, not only are you disliked, but people assume you just don't know how to play the game. I think that's too harsh because, like you said, she's identifying like threats, but the threats she identifies are tough sells. Like, they are like the core of alliances, so it's difficult to persuade someone to actually target them. Um, but with an idol that's secret at this point, if she does like a successful idol play, that could like demand respect at that point. So this could be
Yeah.
what she needs. So we'll see where that goes. Uh, but yeah,
It's just
first,
terrible
yeah.
at like reading things. Like, before you even like move on to the next segment, like, I'm trying to remember if it was like Kenzie and her, right? Afterwards, where she gets the idol, but she decides, okay, like, I don't have an ally. I don't need to disclose this to anyone. She's not someone who's just went up towards someone and started talking about the idol, planning out, this is what we're going to do with the idol now. Like, we have protection. It's just been about her. And correct me if I'm wrong here, but because she doesn't disclose it, like, everyone's thinking that, okay, there's still an idol around. This is where like she starts to act like very obvious, right? Like, if you just read her body
Oh,
language.
when she was walking with Kenzie and she's
She's
just like
walking with
poking leaves
Kenzie.
with a stick.
Yeah, she's like, Kenzie can immediately tell she's not even trying to find the idol. Like, she's looking around, but she's not actually looking. Like, where Kenzie's digging through like leaves and checking the ground and moving stuff to see like, oh, okay, like, could this be blocking something where an idol could be? Venus is just there, like mainly observing her, but then like also like very like nonchalantly, like, just moving stuff here and there, not actually putting an effort in terms of finding something. So I don't know if you were in Kenzie's spot there, well, what would your read of that
Mm-hmm.
situation be? Right, you're seeing someone. Would it not look pretty obvious that okay, it doesn't seem like they're actually looking for the idol, and like, what would your takeaway from that be?
Okay. Well, the thing is that since I don't know, I've never worked with Venus in Kenzie's shoes. Um, and like I said, like people don't respect her. You might just assume like, well, this is why she's bad at this game. She doesn't even know how to search. She's just incompetent, and that's kind of what protects Venus here. Because yeah, like if my
Yeah.
ally who I knew was doing that, I'd be like, bro, what are you doing? Like, and we'd have a conversation and then go from there. But since this is like a stranger, basically, like a strategic stranger, like I've been working with
Mhm.
them, I think I don't blame Kenzie too much for not clocking. She just basically is like, "Pff, it's Venus, of course. Like what have I expected? This kind of what she does. So Venus kind of stumbles into a good situation because like people underestimate her, and so they're not going to be suspicious for now. Foreshadowing,
Right. Yep.
but at that point, but yeah, but let's talk the reward and immunity challenge, which was called Scramble On. So everyone has this pole that has a little ball on top of it, and you're carrying the ball over some balance beams where you get more pieces to make that stick even taller and more balance beams. If you get through all of that, then there is a weird um it's not a puzzle per se, but like you have your stick with a little platform and the ball is on top of that platform and you're sliding it on this horizontal snake maze with these obstacles and you need to like weave around the obstacles without letting the ball fall down. And at the very end there's a little basket that you drop the ball into. Um Venus and Maria, both of them are really good at this, but they both still drop multiple times, as does everybody else. So it's actually a surprisingly close challenge because everyone has to start over and over and over again. But it is Maria and Venus at the very end. Venus gets to the end. She's right there. All she has to do is tip the stick a little bit, but somehow like moves it too much and the ball like falls and doesn't go in the basket. It's crazy. Which opens the door for Maria to then get it in the basket and win immunity.
Yeah. I remember the ending sequence there. This was an interesting challenge just because it seemed like Maria had the early lead, getting her to the end, the final piece of the challenge right away compared to the others who were lagging behind. But because everyone was dropping the ball on that one, everyone else got a chance to come in and actually make it on that final challenge, like make a attempt to win it all. And clearly, like it was a pretty difficult challenge because it wasn't just her. Like no one else was like having an easy time just like getting the ball through like the nets. And if you recall, I was saying like right at the end where it looked like Venus had it. It's like, oh, this is rigged. She just kind of like threw it for Maria because it was hard to believe that like she went through the most difficult part of the challenge, and all she had to do was slightly lean the platform she was holding so that the ball could fall into the net, and she just overshot it. Right, so that was more of a joke, but like that was one of those things where it's like, wow, huge missed opportunity there because you got through the hard part of the challenge and that would have set you up really nicely. You would have beaten Maria. You have an idol at this point. You would have also gotten like this challenge win, which would have given you immunity. So that was one of those what ifs where it's like, if Venus won that, like she would have had a really good episode.
Oh yeah, that's the type of thing where if it benefited the survivor to lose, you would accuse them of throwing it because there are times when surprisingly it is better for you to lose. Um, Honestly, for example, if this was just a reward challenge and not an immunity challenge, what Maria does next is a reason to not win reward challenges. So she
Yeah.
wins. She gets immunity. That's good. She also has to pick 2 people to go with her on reward, which is pizza, which is probably like horrible Fijian pizza, but they're starving, so it will taste
It's a step down
immaculate,
from
I'm sure.
Applebee's, but Liz would still take it.
Yeah, yes. Oh, and specifically Liz, because by the way, it turns out that this is not one of the things she's allergic to. So keep that in mind. And so Maria chooses Ben, someone she's aligned with, makes sense. And Ben has, I don't think he's won too often in terms of like being able to go on rewards. So all
Yeah.
right. And then she is really struggling on the next person to pick. And she just stands there and stands there. That's to the point that Jeff has to be like, wow, we've never seen this take this long. And Maria even says like she's trying to talk through her thought process, and she calls out like, oh, someone who's been so physically weak and starving and hasn't had food, which all sounds nice. But then she says, cue Liz, rock, paper, scissors. I'm like, what? Oh, actually, no, sorry. No, before that, she asks Venus, Q, and Liz all to like make their case, which is also just a weird thing to do. What'd you think of all this?
I just thought it was so unnecessary. This was an insulting pick, right? If you're gonna pick someone, just pick them. Like there's gonna be people who hate you no matter what, but I think the way she did it really upset some people, and justifiably so, I would say. Right? If you're gonna preface this by saying that, like, I'm gonna choose people who are really need the food, who are struggling to just kind of keep up, just because, like, your physicality gets tested, you don't get much to eat, it messes with your mental, and all of that put together, it made it sound like, she's trying to be considerate and help people beyond whatever her relationships with the others are, which is nice. But then you see how she chooses the people, and you're like, okay, well, like, I'm surprised she was even part of this, considering he just won the last challenge.
I
They
know,
all
that's
got
the
to eat
worst
something.
part.
So,
He
like,
just had Applebee's.
she, like, that was just what she said was like purely contradictory. Like, I'm not sure why Q was chosen. Like, this challenge made it seem like Jeff was just trying to throw Liz a bone, right? Like, trying to get a challenge where he knew that she could eat the food. And he was probably banking on the fact that someone would pick her. But, like, yeah, like, to give Q the opportunity, Charlie was in it too. Like, she was considering Charlie too, but Charlie was kind enough to just be like, hey, like, the others need food more than I do. Like, I'm fine. You don't have to. I'm not gonna, like, look at you the wrong way here. Like, you don't have to pick me. It's okay. We're good. Like, that was kind of him. He didn't have to say that, but he did. So, like, he essentially made it an easier choice for her, but still, like, she's like between Q, Kenzie, Venus, and Liz. And as you said, then he's like, like Liz and Q. Yeah, just Liz and Q do rock, paper, scissors, and whoever wins it, I'll take. Like, that was such a cop out. Like, I thought that, like, okay, if you're gonna choose someone, like, and going by what you're saying, like, just choose Liz. Like, everyone else would probably understand. And, like, while some people might be disappointed, like, the way that she did it, it's like some people who are already against her, like, really turned them against her. And even her own ally started, like, did not like how she did it. Charlie, like, after this choice, we saw, like, did not like how she went about it. So I just thought, like, this was she kind of fumbled there. Like, it's one thing to win a challenge, and, like, you don't have the choice to just bring everyone with you, so it's a hard decision no matter what. But stick to what you're saying. If you're saying that, like, okay, like, I got to be considering who's having a hard time, who needs the food. We could tell from Liz's outburst that it's pretty clearly it's Liz. And it was just surprising to see her
Yeah.
not choose her and make it a game of rock, paper, scissors instead, which she could have won,
That's
but
the
still,
thing.
like,
Like
just choose
ultimately
her if you're going to do that.
pick who is gonna be strategically best for you. But on this whole show is is horrible for your social game.
It's unnecessary.
But it might not have mattered because if Ben's gonna be with her no matter what, and Charlie's gonna be with her no matter what, and Q's gonna be with her no matter what, that's the majority. So it might not have mattered. Except while everybody else is back at camp, now like the wheel starts spinning, people are complaining, and Charlie has already been thinking about if it would be time to go against his own ally, but Venus and Kenzie really want him to, which in this situation means targeting Q because people are now very convinced that Q is aligned with Maria. So if you want to take a shot at Maria, then you take out who's with, which lucky for Charlie, because that might have meant him in another scenario, but people dislike Q so much right now that Q ends up being the target here. And it really builds the momentum that it's gonna be Q. And then just a bizarre scene we get. Venus is just walking with Charlie, reconfirming the plan that they have already agreed upon. Like, there's enough people targeting Q. In fact, even Maria maybe would have been. It's like it's up. Charlie and Ben are like debating whether to reveal it to Maria or not because if they blindside Maria, like if they surprise her by voting for Q, she might not like that. So they were debating it. Venus just it's like, oh, and I got something up my sleeve that I think will help us, so we're gonna be fine. And Charlie's like, wait, what? What are you talking about? And he's like, look, I have things. I can't tell you about them now, but after the vote, then we could talk about it. And Charlie, understandably taken aback, confused, intrigued, asked straight up, "Do you have an idol or an advantage?" He's like, "No, no, I don't." Or do I? And at this point, like,
Just
Venus, what in the world are you doing?
that, like, this was probably one of the stupidest sequences I've seen, and that's saying a lot based on how many fumbles we've had this season. Again, this is another fumble, like like you're just shooting yourself in the foot. You guys have a vote. Let's not make this complicated. Venus, if you're gonna like suggest something, just reveal it to the guy. If you're not planning on revealing it to him, why are you even bringing it up in the first place? You're making yourself very suspicious for no reason towards someone who is not even going to be voting you. Like, this is one of those things where, spoiler, this is what puts Venus on the hot seat. And like, I am convinced, had she not said anything to Charlie, she would have had no pressure on her for the rest of the episode. But she just fumbled so hard there where they're approaching the end of the season and they recognize that, like, every vote counts, and whoever has protection now, like, that means a lot. And if you're suggesting that you might have something like an idol, like, that can immediately just make you a threat. And this is someone who is not previously allied with you. So, like, it just goes back to what I'm saying about, like, she just lacks self-awareness. Like, it's just, I don't understand the thought process behind revealing that to him. Or I guess semi-revealing that to him. Herself not coming out and just being honest about it if you are gonna reveal it. She just made herself very suspicious for no reason. And that's a recipe for most people voting you out. You could be a good contestant, you could be doing all the right things, but if someone sees you as suspicious, they're not gonna see you as trustworthy, and they'll just vote you out for that reason. And she gave Charlie all the ammo he needed to just vote her out. And I just thought that was such a big blunder that was self-inflicted. No one like forced her into that situation. She just did it herself. I just thought that was I just thought that was really stupid.
And what's crazy is like Charlie really didn't want to. Like all episode, he was talking about how much he wanted to get out Q, not just because of who Q is, but because Q is kind of pulling his own a lot, his number one away from him. Like he wants to be number one to Maria, not Q. So, in fact, maybe some might have felt Charlie still should have voted out Q anyway. But the thing is, Venus being so cryptic, someone who already was not trusted before all this, and who still keeps it a secret, doesn't reveal. Like maybe Venus just couldn't help herself; she was just so excited to have it, and at that point, you might just have to tell Charlie, or just like lie and say like it's an advantage, but don't say it's an idol. I don't know. But now Venus has something secretive she's not telling them, which means who knows what it could be anything. It could be an extra vote. It could be the knowledge is power, which came up in the season we're watching now, 49. It could be anything. So it's really scary and spooky, and she's not telling me. She's being weird. And this avoids having to blindside Maria as well, so kick that down the road. So yeah. In the end, everybody but while Venus continues to vote for Q, everybody else votes for Venus except one person, which we'll get into momentarily. But it is 5 votes Venus, 1 vote Q, 1 strange vote to Kenzie, and so Venus is voted out, idol in her pocket. F, do you want to see Venus
No.
again?
No way.
I think if the question is, can she get herself in an alliance? Because she never had that. She had it for a brief moment, a one-on-one alliance with Brandon, and then he left. Like maybe she would have been less chaotic if she had a proper alliance.
I don't know. I mean, I just don't think she was enjoyable to watch. She didn't really play with any strategy. She was just a controversial person throughout. Like, I don't actually know what she's done all season, right? Like, she's had disputes with people. She's had disputes with Q, people in her own tribe. I can't recall a single time where she's actually made an effort to work with someone, like genuinely. And you're not going to win Survivor playing like that. And like, would I ever want to see someone who plays like that come back for a future season? No, because I know there would be an easy out.
Yeah. I mean, I do like someone who's interested in taking control of the game, because she spoke with the air of being like a puppet master. But the problem is, like, she might believe that that's what she's doing, but like from what we're seeing, that's not at all what's happening. So the only hope would have been is if she didn't make this blunder, they did vote out Q, then Venus still has an idol, maybe uses it to get out who she wants next time, and then goes from there, maybe. But even then, she'd be doing it alone with no allies. Maybe her and Liz vote together sometimes. There was a little bit of a bond building with Kenzie out of desperation on Kenzie's part.
Yeah.
But in the
But
end, we lose Venus.
massive what if episode. Like I was saying, this could have been a really good episode for Venus, where she potentially could win the immunity. She already has the idol at that point, and you're approaching the jury votes. Like, that gives you such an advantage over the others, regardless of what they think about you. Like, you just have protections. And to fumble that is just like, it's just been essentially how the season has been going. Like, if this was any other season, it would have hit home a little bit harder. But because this has been such a recurring thing this season, you start to get a little desensitized to it.
Sure. Well, let's get ready for more, because we go into episode 12 called Mama
The
Bear.
topic of fumbles again.
Yeah, so this, I guess it's unknown if this is going to be a fumble, but we find out that there was a stray vote for Kenzie, which is weird. Her name didn't come up all episode, and yet she got a vote. And your winner pick, Ben, reveals that according to him, he totally blanked when he was standing at the booth. He panicked and then just found himself writing down Kenzie's name. Would you like to explain on behalf of your winner pick what the heck this was about?
Well, I mean, it doesn't make sense to me. This only, I guess, makes sense to Ben. Obviously, he's been going through a lot this season. He's been having panic attacks. And so maybe mentally, 100% he's not there. He's not really able to focus. So I'm not trying to like cut him some slack there. It's just, it's one of those things that like is just the wrong move, right? Like, this is, and regardless of if there's any immediate repercussions for it, I definitely think this is still a fumble. Like, you just don't do that, because like now the person who was not on guard against you is now going to be on guard against you and could potentially be the reason that you get eliminated. So it's just it's unfortunate to see. Ben's a likable person. I would like to believe that, like, yes, like it doesn't make sense how it happened. It really doesn't. But I would give him the benefit of the doubt where he panicked. I'm not sure how he came up with Kenzie's name. Again, does not really make sense. But she might have just been the first person in his mind, not in terms of just voting out, but just because, it seems like they built a good relationship since they've merged together. She's at least been someone who's been helping him, supporting him whenever he's had these panic attacks. But like that for her, Kenzie, like that would hurt even more, considering
I
that, like, yeah,
know.
you went
It's
out of your way
like,
to help someone, and they potentially could have, like, if something accidentally happened where your name came up more than once, you get eliminated due to something like that. Thank God that didn't happen, but like that would have been really upsetting. So just a massive blunder by Ben. Again, just the theme of this season having fumbles all over the place by everyone. Like, it's just more of the same.
yeah, I guess the only positive I can think from it is it is a credit to Ben's social game that it seems that this blows over. Like they're able to laugh nervously about it afterwards, like at when like once everyone sleeps on it. Charlie and Kenzie are laughing about it with him
Yeah,
because there's a
that's
whole
for
lot of
sure.
other people that would not be laughing. I mean, you remember Sue? She got one single vote from Kyle, and from that point on, swore vengeance on his soul. So there are
Yeah, yeah. No,
definitely
Sue
people.
Sue would not be taking any prisoners if that happened to her.
Yeah, so I guess it's a little bit of credit to Ben and then the rest that it doesn't go that way, but yeah, this is not good. By the way, that's Kenzie's first vote against her the entire season. So if she was going for the perfect game is now over. So
And what
that's
a way
what's
for it to be over due to someone like he didn't even intentionally try to get her out. Like that was just a accidental vote, if you could call it that.
it's like in baseball, someone's going for a perfect game, but then like somebody drops the ball, so like it's an error to end the perfect game.
Oh, that would kill me.
So we have that happen. Um, Afterwards, we we get more of a theme of people mm, acknowledging Maria's winner threat. And we start getting Charlie admitting like he is strongly considering targeting Maria at this vote if she's available to be voted for.
Yeah.
And the theme of the whole episode is it turns out that Maria will come to the same conclusion, and both of them intend to target each other, which is kind of cool. This is actually the same thing that Kenzie wanted to do against Tiffany, but this is at final 6, whereas that was final 9, or 8, one of those two. Um, so I mean, they could. Do you think this is? It's like, would you wait even longer? So the longest you could wait would be final 5, because usually final 4 is the fire making, and this
Yeah.
is final 6. So like,
It's
yeah,
it's dangerous. My bias is telling me, like, you should still get out Q. Like, I think strategically, yeah, like he could be someone who might be useful to have as the final uh, as one of the finalists, just because, like, I don't think too many jury members would vote for him, but you never know. This has been such a chaotic season that, like, nothing nothing can end up going the way that you would think it would end up going. So for me, the option had been between either Maria or Q. It's consistently been Q, but like Maria clearly is a threat. And like, because you're about to like make it to the end, do you want to take any chance giving her an opportunity to continue on? But this is before, like, you're even getting into the challenge, knowing who has immunity. I could be convinced, as much as I would not want Q to advance further, I could be convinced to vote out Maria just because like she very much is a threat here, and if I'm worried about losing to anyone at the end, it's going to be Maria.
Yeah, well, what about from Maria's perspective? So same thing. She now is convinced that she wants to target Charlie. So she also could have waited one more tribal to final five to do it. So what about her intentions?
Yeah, that's surprising. The fact that like she's been her rock and she just recently had like a relationship start with Q and has been more willing to advance further with Q than with Charlie, like I don't know. I don't think that's the right move. I think she's a bigger threat than Charlie if she can recognize that. I think if they were both to make it to the end, she would likely win. So I don't know. I'm just wondering if this is something where she sees maybe Q still being a useful shield for her in a way that Charlie cannot be. But again, it's one of those things that it's like hard for me to assess. She might be seeing something that I'm not seeing because for me as a viewer, it feels like, just get rid of the person causing the chaos in Q. You're essentially the top dog right now. You can get rid of anyone. It doesn't necessarily have to be Charlie. Charlie, if he's been supportive to you up until now, like he's not really shown her at any point up until now that he's working against her. So if I'm her, I don't currently have reason to believe that I should be worried about Charlie, but like you never know. You gotta sleep
Well, I
with like
guess
one eye open in Survivor.
from her perspective, Charlie, Ben, and Q. Like officially, that's her four-person alliance because it's Siga, and then she brought in Q of her own accord into that. So I don't think in her mind it's choosing between Charlie and Q. It would be, should I target Kenzie or Liz, who are not part of our group, or should I strike against my own number one, who I think is competitive and I don't want to have to face them at the end. That's kind of what she's choosing because for Charlie,
Yeah.
his decision is probably between Maria or Q because and he's just and if he thinks he would lose to Maria at the end, that would be a reason to target Maria.
I mean, I don't know if you need to immediately think about getting out Charlie. I think there's still do you still have another opportunity? It's just one of those things that like you've seen what Q is, right? And Charlie has been supportive to you up until now. You can vote out your number one. I don't know how much it would add to your resume at this point. I think she already has a pretty strong enough resume at this point. So from like a standpoint of having to do more to get that jury vote, I don't think that's necessary for her at this point. And she herself has been pretty competitive in challenges. So yeah, Charlie, if anyone else like could compete and win those challenges, it could be Charlie. But you know, you don't want to give a situation where Q comes out on top and is able to slide into the end and make a strong enough case for himself, because that would be a very surprising outcome. I think I'm just a little bit weary about like this is me speaking from Maria's perspective. I've not seen anything that Charlie has done that's worked against me so far, and if we can make it to the end as the entire Siga tribe, that works to my benefit because I'm essentially at the head of that tribe.
Gotcha. So in other words, is it fair to say you feel it makes more sense for Charlie to target Maria than for Maria to target Charlie?
Yeah,
Is that a fair
well,
statement?
just has to do with their standings because she's a bigger threat to him than he is to her.
Interesting. Interesting. Okay. Uh, the reward challenge, which was called a Master of Puppets, was there's a obstacle course where it's kind of like a horizontal ladder. Like if you imagine going to the steps and you're kind of bringing a bag through that. It's attached to a rope, so you have to get that through the legs of this ladder that's horizontal as you walk across, and eventually, when you get to the end, you will put a ball in a table maze, and this table maze, you're kind of holding onto two ropes like two handles attached to ropes, and then when you pull them, the table maze tilts in different directions. And you're trying to get the ball into the center of the table maze. And in the end, it is Charlie that is able to win this one. And he ends up being in. Now, this was only reward. So this is dangerous when you win in a solely reward challenge, because now Charlie needs to pick who's going to join him for a Chinese takeout at the sanctuary. But not just Chinese takeout, but they're gonna get the letters from their loved ones. So obviously everyone's very emotional about this. Plenty of survivors have gone wrong at this stage. But Charlie f- finds the pretty sensible solution here and just states it makes the most sense to bring the two people that didn't go on reward last time, didn't eat, which is Kenzie and Liz. And those are the people he brings. And
Yep.
even obviously the people that don't go are definitely disappointed, but huge contrast to what Q did and to what Maria did, especially last time.
Yeah, I think strategically it makes sense, and you can't fault him for it. Really, like he's just trying to be considerate there. It's disappointing if you're part of his team, but like if I'm Maria, for example, she took it hard. Obviously, like it's not really about the food. She just wants to see the letters that her kids sent her. But even she recognized that, like like I can't blame him for doing that. Like he's just like God. If I could have won any challenge, I would have given up the other challenges to just win this one. She was just hurt that she lost the opportunity to read the letters, but she still recognized that despite what happened, like, it's just I know why Charlie did what he did. She didn't have to say it, but like she understood. And, she's telling the viewers that. So like, I watching it while it's happening also recognize that, yeah, it's an easy thing for him where it's he could just say that, like how much backlash is he gonna get for that? Right? Like these other people did not eat. Liz especially is like in such like it's a thing where it's like you're again, it's kind of like how Kenzie's been helping out Ben. Like you're just getting away from the game for a second and just being human and just trying to like help someone just for the sake of trying to help them. And whenever someone does that, I have nothing but respect for them for doing that. Like because you're in it to compete and win the game, but you're also showing that like, hey, like we're all in here for each other, and when things get rough, like you're not alone. Like I'll pick you up.
It also doesn't hurt that with targeting Maria on his mind, makes sense to not bring Maria then, so you can actually talk openly with Liz and Kenzie. And then Maria actually points out that like she is devastated, but she and Charlie had actually all previously already talked about if there were rewards that they wouldn't take each other, so that like
Yes.
there'd be one person in both places. So they're kind of like managing everybody between the two of them, which is actually
Yeah.
a pretty good
It's pretty
strategy
smart.
as long as you like you two as a duo like actually are allies. Obviously, like in this case, it turns out that both of them begin scheming against each other. Back at camp, uh, Q and Maria, and presumably Ben, though, like we don't see Ben. He just kind of become invisible lately. Uh, search for an idol. This is mainly they don't know that Venus had one and got voted out with it, but I guess it's just they think they're still looking for the Tiffany idol. And in a funny confessional, Q reveals to us, he's like, "Oh, wait a minute, what's this? What's in the Q skirt? Oh, it's an idol!" And it turns out the Q has found this idol, which could be a game changer for him, of course, because
Yeah.
he, like Venus, also not taken seriously at all, also hated. So if he could do an idol play, that would definitely improve his standing. He does tell Maria about it. So this kind of, I think this is the first time, like, objectively, they're aligned with each other. Because if Maria was just using Q as a number, then Q probably would not have shown her this.
And I mean, it just shows the contrast between what he did, what Venus did, and what most people tend to do. Like if they have someone that they are trying to trust or build a relationship with, people will just be like, "Yeah, I have an idol." right? Because then they could try to influence you into what working and trying to vote the way that they want. And, this was the point where seeing Q get the idol, I was like, oh, okay, wow. Q could make it to the very end and start like building his own case for why he could win it all. Do I still see him beating someone like Maria? No, but like he could build a path to be able to win this season if the cards hit right for him.
Oh yeah, I mean, if he idles somebody out, and then he could say like, "I was the target in so many votes, and I survived." I mean, he could have had something. Um, so that's the knowledge we have going into the immunity challenge, where Q now has an idol. Ben and Maria seem to be targeting each other. Let's see what will happen. The
Charlie and
immunity
Maria.
challenge. Yes, that's right. Sorry, Charlie and Maria. The immunity challenge was called Splash Into Me. So everyone has to swim to a tower, get onto it and jump off, and then get to a balance beam, get across that, and then there's this dolphin puzzle. Really, the story of this challenge was that it was semi evenly matched until the very end. In fact, it was Ben who took the early lead in like getting to the puzzle first and working on it. But when Maria got there, Maria absolutely killed this puzzle. And
Yeah.
another it'll end up being another challenge win for Maria, who suddenly has a whole lot of challenge wins. Really, her and Charlie actually have a number of challenge wins. And that means that Maria will be immune. Charlie's plans are foiled, and it does set up a showdown. And what really happens here is that because of Maria, I think she caused herself social damage previously, and so when all the conversations the last 2 days for them have been happening, people have had targeting her on their mind, not just Charlie, but Kenzie and Liz and Venus before them. And so now, at this point, Charlie already had agreed to target Maria. Can't do that. So the next best thing is Q, who's hated anyway. Kenzie wants to get rid of Q. Liz has always wanted to get rid of Q. So they're very predisposed to make Q the target. And so then when Maria talks to them about getting Charlie, I mean, they tell her, "Oh yeah, of course," but they actually just don't have the intention to do that. And uh, the confessionals were really funny though. Like when they spliced Charlie's and Maria's confessionals together, where each of them are like, I don't think they would. I don't think the other person would actually target me. They're gonna be really shocked about this.
Yeah.
Um, I know the chaos has been tough to get through, but did you enjoy the like? It's kind of like the two main strategic players going at each other in this episode. Did you enjoy that at all?
Yeah, yeah. This is the quick summary I was saying at the start of this episode. I was saying that like despite the chaos we've had this season, we still like at least these two episodes, we are starting to see some strategy in play, which is really all I wanted. Uh, and that being the infighting now in the Sega tribe and seeing how, who's coming out on top. Is it Charlie? Is it going to be Maria? Fortunately enough for Charlie, even though like he does want to get Maria out, there is some benefit to her getting the idol. And, you don't ever want to have or not the idol, excuse me, the immunity. You don't want to put yourself in a situation where you're voting for someone who you're allied with and they don't end up getting eliminated. Like that just looks really weird. Right. So like Charlie doesn't even have to worry about that. He still has someone else he wants out. You can just focus the vote on Q. Gives you an opportunity on if you can blindside Maria, you have an opportunity to do it. On the other hand, Maria, while she's targeting Charlie and is trying to work the vote on him, she has no choice but to vote for Charlie. She could vote for Q, but like she feels that the vote can be cast on Charlie. So, it puts her in a position where her vote is then exposed as like, oh, this person I've been working with this whole time, I'm actually working on voting him out. So it it sets that up for like the next episode in terms of, like what are we how are the dynamics shifting and how are people adapting to these break in lines or like new relationships that they're building, working across tribal lines. What is that turning into?
Yeah, well, the thing is, like, obviously, if Maria's plan had worked, it would be a huge move, and at that point, what would have happened is that at least Kenzie and Liz and Q would have all voted with her, and then maybe Ben, maybe not. That probably would have been good for her, and Charlie would be gone. In the other direction, Charlie is blindsiding Maria because he's voting against her ally. However, Maria's smokescreen to Charlie is Q. So Charlie can actually just say like, "You said it was Q." I was. He actually, if he wants to, could claim he wasn't going against Maria. Because again,
I don't even think he has
Maria,
to do that.
you told me it was Q, so I voted for Q.
Yeah. I mean, I don't even think he has to like explain that to her. He could just be like, the others don't want Q to continue. Like the others have wanted to vote out Q for a while. And that's true. Like Kenzie doesn't want to work with Q anymore. Ben already is pretty soured on Q. Like this is something that does not need too much explanation if you're following the storylines that are going on. So I think this is a very easy out for Charlie.
Yeah. Whereas probably I don't remember if Ben was clued into Maria's plan. Like if Charlie had gone home and Ben was blindsided, like there would be no way to explain that to Ben other than like I betrayed us. Um, Whereas Charlie, I think, is better. So what happens at this tribal is I think all four of these tribals consecutive in a row, 4 episodes. I think Jeff kind of is really put in like, look at all those people on the jury, each one of them blindsided. Don't you think it could be you? Like nudging, like, hey guys, you might be in danger. If you have a way to protect yourself, you might want to use it. But despite all that, nobody uses it, including Q, who does not use his idol, and it is 4 votes Q, 2 votes Charlie, which came from Maria and Q, and Q is voted out, the 4th person in a row to go home with an idol in their pocket. New record. Wild.
Just crazy. Yeah, just crazy.
Uh, which is
It's
that. So that
impressive yet
leaves
at the same
us.
time disappointing.
Yeah, I guess that's true. Like it was wild at the time, but like if any one of those people had used an idol to defend themselves, that would have been its own crazy moment. I think this specific one is supposed to get you hyped because the show expects you to want Q to get voted out, so they actually show us every single vote. So it's actually not a surprise what the votes are going to be. It's just will Q use his idol or not.
Yeah, and
Uh,
again, mistakenly, I thought, yes, he is going to use his idol. There's like, he has between this episode and the next episode to use his idol. It's
Yep.
a 50-50 chance. Is he going to use it? He clearly should be aware of the fact that there's a number of people who probably want to get him out. And he just does not use it. So I don't know. It just, this is another one where it's like, it seems super obvious. Like even if you're not the final vote, just give yourself the peace of mind of surviving another day, right?
sure, sure, you could have done that. Q goes home. Do you want to see the legend of Q return again?
He's such a complex character. I don't, but like Q just started out pretty good. I thought that he would, adapt over the course of the game. He started out, and you're getting the impression this guy is someone who doesn't give up, gives it his all. Like that's him talking about himself. In the first episode, we see a segment of him giving up on one of the challenges. And you're like, oh, okay, like what is this about? And then over the course of the season, we see him giving up and telling people to vote him out. And it's like, and then at other times, I do like the aspect that he does take accountability of things, but is very harsh and trying to eliminate himself over it, which is kind of weird. But like, it's kind of an interesting personality. You don't really see too much in Survivor. So he's an interesting character to follow, but just not one that I think is well suited for Survivor.
By the way, I should give him the respect he deserves. His full name is Contavious Burdett. Contavious Q. Burdett. In case that
I've been
changes your mind
calling
at all.
Cantavius this whole time.
Yes.
No, it does not.
Yeah. But okay, fair enough. Fair enough. So we lose Q. So I think to wrap this up, we're down to our final 5. So these 5 people will have a showdown in the finale. It'll be Ben, Charlie, Kenzie, Liz, and Maria. Uh well, first of all, I guess this is all part of the same discussion. So right now, Ben is your winner pick. If Ben were to win, what type of path do you see for him to get to the end and win?
Well, for starters, he needs to get rid of Maria. And then, I mean, even Charlie's ahead of him right now. So he needs to do something he needs to essentially be the only Sega tribe person in the game. And if he creates that opportunity for himself, then, and especially if he's the one driving that, that is the pathway I see for him winning the game. And it's a hard road. It's one where now, like, someone like Kenzie wouldn't have thought to vote against him and has been supportive towards him because of him essentially calling her out in a vote. You don't know how that's going to go. He's a very dangerous pick because, like, I'm 90% sure he's not going to win, but this has been such a chaotic season where I would just love to be wrong about that and hope to. I don't want to be straying away from my vote, and then for some reason Ben ends up winning the game, and I'm like, wow, I lost my faith at the very end.
Well, yeah, this is
So
one of your original 2 picks that has made it quite far
yeah,
here to the finale episode.
so I mean, I would I would keep my vote on him. I understand it's a very hard pathway for him to win, but I don't think I don't think it's impossible. I think he definitely needs to get rid of the other 2 Sega members.
Who do you think has the advantage between Charlie and Maria? I remember at the
Maria,
time that was the big conversation going into the finale. You say Maria?
yes. This is me thinking as Ben. Me as a viewer, there's dangers in Charlie that, like the rest of the tribe, because they voted with him, he might be the top of a new majority now. But like if I'm thinking as Ben, like yes, Maria's a clear threat. I mean, neither person I want to make like I don't want to face off against either of those in a jury vote. And like,
Mhm.
like if I was to choose between the two, like I would like my chances better with Charlie as opposed to with Maria.
Do you think there's any wisdom in hoping Maria has made enemies? So, like, she played a better game than me, but maybe the jury doesn't like her and won't vote for her? Or
I
do you prefer Charlie, like you said, where, like, the social game is more neutral, like, maybe even leaning positive, but he hasn't done
Yeah.
as much as Maria's done?
Yeah, I think it's hard to say. While I do think she's not going to get the unanimous vote, I do think she's done enough where a majority of the jury is going to vote for her. Charlie, I also don't think he's going to get the unanimous vote, but you have an easier time at least seeing it with him. He's a more likable person. He stayed a more likable person. Maria, over the last few episodes, has done very controversial things. Where had that not happened, like she just clear cut seems like the person who end up winning the game. So I think this is Maria's game to lose right now. So if I was to prioritize between either or, I would prioritize Maria.
Okay, then last question. So, if Ben gets what he wants, and we get a Ben, Kenzie, and Liz final tribal, uh, what's the power ranking of those finalists in your opinion?
Well, assuming Ben has any influence in terms of, even if he has any influence in voting one of the 2 Sega members out, I would put Ben above Kenzie and above Liz. I'm not really sure what Liz has done so far this season. Kenzie has done a good job of surviving, built good relationships, would probably be competitive in the jury vote. But I like in a hypothetical situation where you get rid of your own number one and are driving force behind that, Kenzie would have had that, had people assumed that she's part of the Tiffany vote, but like she can't play that card. So it, in that scenario, just like I was saying for Maria, it's her game to lose. Between those three, that would end up becoming Ben's game to lose.
Gotcha. It kind of sounds like what it all comes down to is the person that can say they got rid of Charlie and or Maria is gonna win. Because that's kind of what this
Yeah,
discussion is
pretty much.
circling around. Although if they neither of them get eliminated, now that those are mentioned things. Because like at that point, I guess it's just Maria versus Charlie plus a third wheel.
I mean, that could be an interesting end. Like that would be a competitive end where Charlie could sneak in a win. But it seems increasingly likely the further that Maria gets that it's likely going to be her win.
Interesting. All right, so that's our little finale preview. I remembered like a lot of the attention was on Charlie and Maria, and then some attention to Ben and Kenzie, and then not much attention to Liz. But before out of 5 finalists having like some possibility to win, I mean, that's pretty good. I think.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you think back to our Cook Islands watch, is that the final 4 was Yule, Ozzy, Sandra, and Becky, and it was kind of like, well, Becky and Sandra have just kind of been there. Like, I don't see any path for them. So that's only like 2 people with a chance to win. So this is like 2 major people, 2 minor people, and then someone who we probably won't do it. So, pretty good.
And even Q, honestly, if he was there like with like swap Kenzie or like Liz, I think he would be at the bottom of that list. But like I could just, even with him, see a pathway where he's been so influential in the game that he could use that as a cause for getting a jury vote here and there.
Yeah, oh, I can't wait for you to see jury member Q. What questions will he ask? Oh,
Yeah, can't wait.
who knows? But all right. Well, thank you all for tuning in to this week's Island Life episode. And join us next time as we get another season under our belt, the finale of season 46. Plus, I will reveal to both you, F, and we'll invite Ange back at least to hear this part, which people, if any, will be returning to season 50 from this cast. Dun dun dun.
Awesome. Yeah, looking forward to it.
But all right, until then, everybody, and until we speak again, ciao.